Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Tony Robles. Welcome to another episode of the People's Poet Podcast, also known as Triple P. Today, we have a very, very special guest. Before we get to him, however, please hit the subscribe button, smash that thing so that we can send you alerts, let you know what's happening. Also, be sure to leave a comment because, we want your suggestions and ideas for future shows. Our very special guest today is none other than Preston Blakely. Now, Preston Blakely is is a brother I got a chance to meet a couple months ago here in Hendersonville, and Hendersonville, if you don't know, is located in Western North Carolina. Um, Preston, back in 2019, November 5th, he won a seat on the town council in Fletcher, which is close. It's in Henderson County, winning 72% of the vote, defeating the incumbent Hugh Clark uh, with a 3-1 margin of victory vote-wise. So um, we'd like to welcome Preston Blakely. What's happening, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be here.
I
Super
noticed.
excited.
Yeah, I noticed you got the town council sign. Been seeing,
Yep.
everywhere I walk, I've been seeing a lot of signs everywhere, and I know that this election is real crucial. Um, tell us a little bit about yourself. You are you from Fletcher? Were you born and raised in Fletcher?
I was actually born in Nashville, which is I guess for your viewers that don't know, it's just north of Fletcher in Buncombe County. So I was born in Nashville, and for as long as I can remember, at least, I've lived in Fletcher. Besides when I was in undergrad.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of interesting. I've been meeting a lot of people here, and there was a guy that I met that kind of gave me a background on where Fletcher got its name. Now, I haven't confirmed this, but what he said is that it comes from a Scottish, I guess, a Scottish background from the word flesher, and that a flesher, I guess, way back was a guy who walked around with bows and arrows, shoot animals, skin them, cut the meat up, and it was a flesher,
Hmm.
and from there it became Fletcher. So, whether or not that's true or not, but that's the story. That's a story that I've gotten. Now, you you come from a legacy, from what I understand. Um, if you can maybe talk about your your grandmother. I think from what I read, your grandmother was a was an activist, Aureline Graves Simmons.
Yeah, is an
Right?
activist.
Is an activist. Can you talk about her and her legacy and how that inspired you?
Yeah, absolutely. My grandmother, Orlean Anderson Graves Simmons. Um, Our family is from Morris Hill, which is in Madison County, and also in Western North Carolina. Um, she, in high school, she was accepted to Morris Hill University, then it was Morris Hill College. Um, and she went on to be the first student of color to attend Morris Hill University. And unfortunately, she didn't finish, but she was just treated so poorly there. But she did make that groundbreaking step to end segregation there at Morris Hill University. Um, Back in high school, she was an active member in the community. She was a member of A Score, which is the Asheville something on racial equality, and they did a lot of advocacy work there. And the story actually of Morris Hill goes back even farther, where my great son grandfather was an enslaved man, and he was from Morris Hill, and they actually used him as collateral to get the university up and going. So we have a large history back in Morris Hill. Uh, my grandmother started the Martin Luther King Foundation of Asheville and Buncombe County. And then there comes the prayer breakfast, the annual prayer breakfast of the MLK holiday weekend. And that started decades ago. And from my understanding, it started as just, kind of a small neighborhood community thing. And now it's grown to thousands of people attended each year. Has been at the Civic Center. And now it's, I forget the name of the hotel, but it is at a hotel. And I guess their multi-purpose room is huge. And everybody from across the state comes to attend it. So, and
This is
currently go ahead.
this is the Martin Luther King breakfast.
Yeah, up in Asheville,
Yeah,
the one in Asheville.
because I know that they had one here at the Blue Ridge Community College last year that I
Mhm.
had the privilege of attending, and you
Right, I
know,
attended that too.
the thing is, um, you have the Black community, but there was also Latinos in there. In that
Mhm.
meeting, there was white folk in that meeting, and it just shows, I guess, the kind of growing diversity of the of the area. Now, you said your grandmother, worked hard to to integrate that school. Uh, you said that she didn't finish, but I can imagine there was plenty of things going on that you know that had to be addressed, and she founded the Martin Luther King Association of Asheville. So
Right.
so from that, um, what I mean, what kind of, I guess, values did did she pass along to you, and how did you know that when did it come to where you knew that you wanted to become involved in the community, involved in politics, and I'm assuming that she had an impact on that, right?
Yeah, sure. Just to go back to her education, I think education is subjective, right? Somebody cannot go to a university and not have a formal education and still be brilliant. You
Yes.
know, she received an honorary doctorate from Lenore Ron University. But no, she has a ton of values. I mean, she's hard work and she's faced adversity. She sees that uphill battle, a lot of things that I saw when I decided to run. But nevertheless, she kept on going, and I think that's something in the Black community that's very prevalent. That's just that resiliency. We look around and Black women, for example. I mean, to me, they're the hardest working people in this nation. They're the most formally educated group of people in this nation, yet they're paid the least. So my grandmother played a huge role in my life, and the rest of my family did too. My grandmother, who passed away last year, she was the first Black woman to drive a city bus in Asheville. That's huge to see somebody in that role, right?
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
parents started their own company, and it's still going. I work for it. That's huge. But yeah, in terms of value, just that resiliency that really resonated with me. And I'm sorry, Tony, I forgot the other part of your question. You asked, I
Oh, I was
think,
just asking, how you, at what point did you realize that you wanted to become
run
active
for office.
in politics or
Yeah,
run for office? Yeah.
yeah, be involved in my community. I've always wanted to be involved in the community. Um, Growing up, I always saw people that didn't look like me in these positions of power. And I didn't say it like that when I was little. I'm like, okay, well, nobody really looks like me up there. And it was really cool to see Barack Obama elected in 2008 when I was in eighth grade. And then in 2012, when I was just turning 18 in October, to be able to vote for him. So I was super excited for me. So that was one of the things that really piqued my interest. Um, and then when I went on to undergrad, my first whole year, I was actually undecided on my major, but I knew I wanted to help people. And I wasn't sure how I wanted to help people. And I ended up taking a political science class. And I was like, oh, well, this is a way to help people through policy, through change, through systematic change. So when I saw that, I started to become more involved, and I interned in the General Assembly. I briefly interned for a member of Congress, and then I went on to get my master's degree. And actually, for a second there, I thought I wanted to go into the more administrative side of government. So we have these policymakers, like I guess I am now, but then we have these administrators, like a city or a town manager, that implement those policies, and they have a lot of influence. So I thought I wanted to be more of that city and town manager role, but And then when I was at the city, at interning for a city, I saw decisions being made that I thought impacted the Black community. And I was like, well, I don't like that. And I feel like I'm not in a position to be able to change that. So that's when I decided, I really want to be involved. I want to run for something and be that change agent.
Yeah, because what I've read was that you graduated from UNC Greensboro, and then your master's in public affairs from Western
Mhm.
Carolina University, and then you interned in the, I guess, the 12th congressional district office, and also interned
Mhm.
in North Carolina General Assembly, and also in Hendersonville. Is that correct?
That's right.
Tell me about some of these decisions that were being made that impacted the Black community that you saw, didn't think were cool, and uh, needed to be addressed through being active on the policy end, but also on the grassroots end. Were there any specific things that just kind of came up?
Yeah, I won't speak to it a whole lot. Uh, I work with these people, but um, so in Hendersonville, they were doing a revitalization of one part of the city, and I felt that in the long run that it's got dire unintended consequences in terms of gentrification. If they value diversity like they say they do, then they would think twice about. Um, and I want them to invest in these neighborhoods, right? But I want them to be strategic about what actually comes, and it's not going to be something that's going to gentrify the neighborhood. And then the other thing was they were, I think they currently still are, building a new police station. And from my understanding, and I'm not from Hendersonville, but from my understanding that it'll be in or near a predominantly Black neighborhood, and we know that people of color are already over policed. So I think that might have a consequence and it may exacerbate that problem. I'm not sure if I don't know if this is a problem in Hendersonville, but that could certainly be the case. You know what I mean?
Well, I know that that's an issue and a problem in a lot of different areas in the country. I know, being from San Francisco, we had a lot of high profile police killings of of young people of color,
Hmm.
Black and brown, and we have police departments whose office of operations are in Black and brown communities. So I I mean I totally understand that, because it seems like gentrification and this type of policing, they go hand in hand. You had said, when I first met you, actually, when I first met you, it was in front of the uh, police
Yeah.
department for the
Yeah.
rally, after George Floyd had been killed, and a lot of young folks had come out and had expressed their concerns about what was going on nationally. We know that national and local they're tied together, right? That we
Are
can't,
intertwined.
you know. Can you talk about that? Because across the country, there's been talk about, uh, you know, they're really politicizing this defund the police, this idea of defunding the police, where they're using it as a political wedge or a political strategy. Um, can you talk uh, about that that whole idea? Because I know in Asheville that's been an issue. I know back in California, in Minnesota, there's a lot of places that's been on the table, where they're thinking about investing that money in the community, rather than in policing, where it would address the issue, uh, the issues of inequality and the things that become criminalized. Try to address these issues systematically, right, on a systemic uh,
Hmm.
basis. So if you can maybe talk a little bit about how you feel about that.
Yeah, I think of defund the police, and I guess it's not really defund, but reallocate funds from the police to other functions.
Yeah.
I think if that's something your community is able to do, then maybe you should consider it. I'm not sure if it's something Fletcher's able to do, but I think we should definitely be mindful of what our police department is doing and be proactive and not reactive. Because I for one never want to be on national. I don't want Fletcher to be making national news. So I know we had a discussion right after the George Floyd incident, and we talked about having some kind of review board for police misconduct in Fletcher. But ultimately, I think if one's community is able to do that, if they're able to reallocate those funds to other functions to make police lives easier and our constituents' lives easier, human lives easier,
Yes.
I think that's absolutely something you should consider.
Yeah, I think what I had read and just looking up certain things, and I think the thing that was the focus of your campaign was getting the community engaged in the decision making process, and I think you
Hmm.
credited a lot of people, a lot of your success in getting elected to on the ground organizing. Can you talk about how you were able to organize people? Many people feel powerless. I know that especially right now with an election being so crucial, that we need to look to organizing and really understanding where our power lies in community. Can you talk to us about how you were able to create that and make some success out of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So my campaign was purely grassroots with the help of a lot of people. So I thank them for sure. A lot of people made phone calls for me. A lot of people wrote postcards for me. People helped me knock on doors. My family helped me knock on doors.
Right,
So
right.
it's definitely family oriented.
Yeah.
I had friends helping me knock on doors. We hung up door hangers to remind people to vote. But the huge thing was when I was campaigning was actually they wanted to see the candidate. They wanted to see the person that was potentially going to represent them. So when I knocked on somebody's door, they were pleased to see me there and they were pleased to learn about me. They said that no political candidate for Fletcher had ever knocked on their door, which might have been a fluke because the mayor, our wonderful mayor Robert Whiteside, knocked on a ton of doors, probably more doors than me. So maybe they just missed him somehow. But I definitely took a page out of his book, went and knocked on the doors, told people what I stood for, told people what I didn't stand for, and then the decision's up to them. And you said something really powerful, Tony. You said the power definitely is with the people, and the power is definitely at the. We think of things like a triangle, and we think the people at the top have the most power, but really it's the base, the people at the bottom that have the most power. Because ultimately, if people don't want me or don't want somebody else on my board elected, then the power is with them, and they can come in and elect us out of office. I think of it when I think about my work at our janitorial business. My parents are the owners, so in theory, they would be at the top of that triangle. Nevertheless, the power really is at the bottom because if every single one of Quiet Janitorial Group's employees didn't come in on a given day, that's a disaster for us. So the power truly is at the base. And I truly believe in grassroots campaigning and grassroots movements. I think when the community is more involved, then we get better decision making.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned, your parents' business, because you and I have this in common. See, my father owned a small janitorial business for many years, and that's how
Hmm.
I kind of learned the kind of what it was to go out and work, and what his struggle was to kind of keep the business going, knocking on doors. I mean, he had me, at the age of 12, 13, knocking on doors, giving out cards. And, you don't really know anything at that age, right? But, you get out there, and then, after I gave out the cards, it was like, okay, you see that buffing machine? Go ahead and work that
Yeah,
buffing machine. And then there were
but
other things too, like, hey, do you know how to remove chewing gum from a carpet?
right.
Hey, there's a science to it.
No, I mean that you're right though. I mean, and that you really understand the power of hard work. You know what I mean? And you get a certain work ethic with that. my family decided, my parents decided to start that business just to make a little bit extra money on the side. My dad used to be an engineer in a plant. My mom was a nurse. My mom has a bachelor's degree. My dad has like 3 associates. Um, so they did that to make some extra money on the side. So I distinctly remember being little. The company was founded in 1990. I was born in 1994. So it's a 30-year-old company now. So our name's gotten out there. Thankfully, we're really blessed to have that. I'm lucky to have that. It brings a lot of privilege to my life or advantage to my life that other people haven't had. Nevertheless, I remember the story my dad always says, when we were younger, that the first people that really gave him an opportunity, one of the first was the Asheville Library, the Buncombe County Library System, and we just cleaned one library, right? And they did a really good job, so they started giving my parents more libraries to clean. And he said that we would go with them, and we would have like toy vacuum cleaners, and we were we were cleaning too, and we would sit there and have dinner as a family at that library as my parents were working. And when it did get to the point where we actually were helping clean, like I remember coming up and I hated it. I'm like, man, why can't we just go home like my friends and their parents have a 9-to-5 jobs.
Yeah.
My parents have a 12-to-12 job, but it's humbling, man. I remember coming up and
So the library was the library was the big account.
Right. That's what started getting it going.
I think one of the things that you wanted to do, one of the objectives that you had was to open a new library, right? I think wasn't that one of the things you wanted to do?
Yeah. So this is where we get into working with different local government boards. So the libraries are a county function. When you have a municipality, that's when when the people in that municipality want these additional services, such as like trash pickup. And the county's not doing trash pickup, so they want things like that. So that's when a municipality usually incorporates when they want those additional services, or brush pickup and stuff like that, scraping the streets when it snows. So libraries are one of those functions that are county functions. So I wanted to continue to advocate for that new Fletcher library. It's the second most used library in the county, right behind the one that's the main one in Hendersonville, and it's heavily used.
Yeah.
Have outdated things in there, and it's really not even a disservice just to people in Fletcher and Northern Henderson County. It's a disservice to everybody in Henderson County. They need to be able to have a space that's compatible with the use, and that's just not the case right now. And we've talked back and forth. I'm hopeful that we can get it one day. Right now, in January, it kind of stagnated. The county said if people of Fletcher want a new library, then the town needs to pay for the facility, which isn't fair. I don't think that's fair. I live in Fletcher. I'm their constituent. I pay county taxes too. I pay for that library function, and the people here in Fletcher pay town of Fletcher taxes. So if we were to say to them, you pay these taxes, but we're not going to come pick up your trash. I mean, you would be mad. I would be upset. Like, that's not fair. So I just feel like we pay these taxes to the county. So if we see a need and people here express that need, then I think they should try their best to try to get it done. And I feel like that's not happening right now. So I'll continue to advocate for that.
So is it that that Fletcher already has a library and you want a new one? Or
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a library here. It's the second most used library. So they're leasing it right now. They don't own the building. It's had its issues. I think it's high time that the people of Northern Henderson County get a new library.
Because you mentioned the main library in Hendersonville. That's a hell of a library. I mean, I spent a lot of time in that library. There's a lot of resources. There's bilingual resources. There's children's. They have a very. I mean, I was surprised the quality of the collection over there. And you have a staff there that's really good, that really cares. And
Yeah.
you know that.
And don't get me wrong, I'm happy that we have a library, of course, because
Yeah.
that's something that a lot of people don't have access to. And I think it's in a great spot right now. Is like 2 minutes from town hall. It's right by our town park is right in front of it, Kate's Park. So it's in
Mhm.
a great location, but it's just not serving us well. And I'm thankful for what the county commissioners do, but that one's it doesn't sit well with me, and it doesn't sit well with the other people on our council.
Well, well, since we're on the subject of books and libraries, what's the last one you've read? What's the last book you've read?
The last book I read,
Yeah.
it's I'm forgetting the title of it. I wish I had it right now beside me. It's actually by Frank Baumgartner, who's a political scientist. Uh, and he teaches at UNC Chapel Hill,
Hmm.
and it was on traffic stops and what traffic stops tell us in North Carolina. So it was an interesting one. I actually got when I was in grad school, I wrote a paper on traffic stops in Nashville, and he gave me a data set that I was able to use. So basically what the Spark Notes version of that book said that people of color essentially are more likely to be pulled over and being pulled over for bogus reasons, but they're no more likely than their white counterparts to be committing a crime.
So that becomes the starting point for a lot of things that jump off. That we know that with a quote unquote routine traffic stop, you got a lot of folks that lose their life over that. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
get folks that lose their life. I know that, and we all
Like we,
know that a lot
like we
of
see this,
what's that?
I said we see this time in and time out is like Sandra Bland. I mean, if I remember correctly, she was pulled over for failing to use her turn signal, I believe.
Yeah,
She ended up, the result of that was she ended up being arrested. And then she unfortunately died in prison. I think it was ruled a suicide. But
they yeah,
had she not been pulled over for not using a turn signal, come on, you and I drive. There's times we don't use our turn signal.
yeah,
I, it's not that heavy, you know what I mean?
yeah. And
And, and
that was down in Texas, right? You know,
that was down in
that was
Texas.
down in Texas. You had the brother that I think in Minnesota who um, I think he was a custodian in one of the schools. They stopped him. They shot him in his car. You
Oh
know?
yeah, he was letting. Yeah, that was the incident, and it was really disheartening. I can't even remember everybody's names,
Yeah.
but I think that was the incident where he was saying that he had his weapon in his car, right?
And he had a license. Yeah. He says, hey, I'm licensed.
Mm-hmm.
To have this firearm.
Right.
Um,
So that's what makes me a little bit nervous. I've had people ask me if I wanted to get a gun. I'm like, no, not really, because even if I'm legally carrying it, you don't know what could happen. Somebody, a police officer, whomever, may think that I'm carrying it for malicious reasons when I'm not, and that may cost me my life.
yeah. Yeah. So it's something. The power of books. The power of narrative and how narratives can bleed into institutions, and the narratives become the institutions themselves. And if the narratives become culture, then sometimes, as they say, the culture can sometimes trump the law and trump the legislation, right?
Mhm.
Because it's so ingrained in the bones of a country or a community. Were there any other books that inspired you, that to become active and to become, you know, uh, active in your community and to serve the community? Were there any other books that? Because I remember for me, early on, the autobiography of Malcolm X. I mean, that was
Oh, by
something that
Alex
was
Haley, yeah,
by Alex
I like,
Haley. Yeah,
yeah, I love. I think Malcolm X. He, I think he had a lot of good ideas. I actually just watched a movie not too long ago.
yeah,
James, it was on James Baldwin. The name of it is slipping my mind right now, but basically it was about James Baldwin, and he was writing a book, and he was talking about all these individuals that had impact in his life, and he was talking about Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and he was talking about how the media kind of, I know we were just talking about the media narratives, and it's kind of talking about how the media kind of portrayed them to be against each other because they had quote unquote different philosophies, but they weren't against each other. And I think we all know that by the end of their lives, they were probably more close than apart. But even when they were apart in philosophies, they weren't against each other. And I think they both knew that their end goal was the same. And I think that's liberation, right?
Yeah, I mean, and I know Baldwin had a lot uh, to say about that, a lot to write about that in his essays in
Mm-hmm.
particular. Um, in fact, I think a year or two ago, there was a book that came out, unreleased essays, a lot of unpublished essays by Baldwin,
Mm-hmm.
called the name of the book is called the Cross of Redemption. Excellent book. I mean, things that he was writing about in his essays, uh, resonate to this day. You know, and he puts it right in front of you and shows you. But the power, again, the power of narrative, the power of the power of the media, right?
Yeah.
To get people, to brainwash people, and not to even see where the inequalities lie. I wanted to ask you. You're on the city council or the town council in Fletcher, and you're 26, right?
I'm 25. I'll be 26 at the end of this month.
Okay, so you'll be 26. Oh, at the end of this month.
Yeah, October 30th, I'll be 26.
Okay, if I don't talk to you before then or by then, happy birthday, man!
Hey,
Happy
thank you, Tony.
birthday. um, I want to find out, what your future plans might be. I know you're on the town council. If you're looking ahead, in the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and what are some of the issues that are really important to you right now? I mean, I know there's many. I mean, we have a pandemic right now. We have the issue of the police violence. We have just some things that seem so unsurmountable. But are there some issues that really are kind of close to you that you are looking at, and what is your vision, for those things in your own work?
Yeah. Do you mean specifically for the people of Fletcher?
For for Fletcher, and and even beyond, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, Fletcher, I'm still working. I've only been in office not even a year yet. It'll be a
yeah,
year in December. So I still like to see the community engage more. Uh, One thing it sounds small, but one thing I was super excited about was, well, two things. Well, one was Ashley Fletcher being on Facebook. Because, I mean, that's a form of media, social media. So, that's a way of getting people engaged like that. A lot of people don't have time to go sit for an hour-long council meeting. They have families, they have work to do. There's an abundance of reason why people won't be able to make it to the town council meeting. But if we have a way of communicating with them through Facebook or whatever means, whatever social media means, and they'll be able to get information like that, and they'll be able to tell us information like that. So I love that. Another thing was we got an internship, or hopefully we're gonna have an internship going. So I think that I'll be able to get us involved with different educational institutes, get them involved in what's going on in Fletcher, get students involved in what's going on in Fletcher. And another thing is that library still. Uh, I love to see that. I know we already talked about that a lot, but I love to see that getting going.
yeah,
And another big thing for Fletcher is we have our Heart of Fletcher plan where we're trying to create a downtown Fletcher, which I think I thank my predecessors for what they've done to get this here. I'm coming in on the kind of tail end of it where we're actually getting proposals, but that's huge. That gives people amenity. That gives people things to do where they can say, hey, I actually drove through Fletcher and they have this there. We should go to Fletcher more. We should spend our dollars on Fletcher. But ultimately, I know you asked about my vision too. I hope to see Fletcher as an inclusive, diverse, welcoming community that everybody's able to live in. Oh, and another thing, I want to see affordable housing in Fletcher. If we're going to bring these things to Fletcher, people need to work these things, right? And a lot of these jobs are unfortunately not high paying, so these people need a place to live. I don't want Fletcher to be a part of a part of gentrifying people. I want to be welcome. I want to be inclusive. I want to be affordable. So if we can get affordable housing, I'd be really happy. So we're hopefully working with different organizations to get that done. Um,
As far as housing is concerned, are we seeing in Fletcher? Are you seeing? Uh, I mean, because of the pandemic and whatnot, are you seeing a spike of evictions? I mean, how is this? How are people being impacted right now? By the housing situation.
yeah, we haven't seen the influx of evictions that I know of in Fletcher, which is good to hear. I know the state government has some. I can't remember the exact details of the program, but they're able to ask for a little bit of support so they can be able to pay their bills, which is great. So hopefully that keeps people up and going. I know the county's getting some funding for that as well that people will be able to apply for. So, but as far as I know so far, there hasn't been this widespread eviction happening in Fletcher, which I'm glad to hear because it has been happening in other places, and that's really disheartening.
Well, with the gentrification, being where I'm from, it was gentrification on a massive scale. You had,
Yeah.
communities of color that were being forced out. You had real estate interests that were using loopholes in the law to evict people, including
Hmm.
seniors. People with disabilities. They were
Yeah.
getting evicted, and
And talking on this subject of gentrification, Asheville's really unique to me in that there's really the people there, at least I think they're well-meaning. There's really progressive place that wants to do the right thing, but they're consistently ranked in the at least the top 10 cities for gentrification. So I think that's really interesting that they keep this title of being super progressive. But when we look at West Asheville and we see these predominantly, or at least used to be predominantly black neighborhoods, I think it's interesting that we see these artisan coffee shops,
yeah,
artisan donut shops right beside them, and then you go back a year later and like, whoa, y'all said y'all love this diversity, y'all want to be around these people, but these people aren't even here anymore.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like wanting to be a part of the culture, but not wanting to be a part of be among the people that brought the culture there. You know, and we
Mm-hmm.
found that that was happening really overtly in San Francisco. I mean, we saw in the
Yeah.
Mission District, which was Latino predominantly, in I think a number of 5, 10 years, we saw like 10,000 families. You know, San Francisco itself went from, I don't have the exact figures, but maybe a 24% black population to under 3%, which is
Uh,
really,
that's drastic.
which is horrible. It's really done a lot of damage to the community fabric over there. It doesn't, in many ways, it doesn't feel like the same. It doesn't feel like the same place. Um, let's see. Oh, I wanted to ask you. When you were working with your parents, in the janitorial company,
Yeah,
you had the library.
I still do.
How old were you at that time?
Uh, probably up until zero until now. But yeah,
Oh, go
when
ahead.
I was when I was using a toy vacuum cleaner and things
Yeah.
like that, I probably couldn't be any more than 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about this has been a part of my life since day one.
Yeah.
Since I took my first breath of air, this is
Yeah.
part of my life. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Well, it's funny. Were there any, when you were a kid, were there any books that you looked at from that library? Were there any, I'm sure that you probably
Yeah,
took.
I can't remember specifically, and we probably weren't supposed to do this, but I know for a fact, because I was so young, I can't remember, but I know for a fact my mom tells us that we used to sit in there and read the books and put them back, and we read all kinds of things. So it's yes, I don't think we were supposed to be doing that, but
Oh,
we were definitely in there, my brother and I, reading the books.
yeah. Hey, Preston, can you hold on one sec? I need to grab my phone. I want to share something with you. One sec.
Okay.
One sec. Yeah, sorry about that. I know a good host isn't a good host isn't supposed to just split like that.
No,
But
that's no worries, because I want to look up something too. Uh, Something that James, and I Am Not Your Negro. That
I
was
am not your Negro. I saw that.
yeah, that was the
Yeah.
documentary I was watching on I think that was the title of the book that he was writing that he didn't finish. But in it, he said something super powerful
Hmm.
as resonated with me. I had to look it up while you were gone. And he says, end quote, if any white man in the world says, give me liberty or give me death, the entire white world applauds. When a black man says exactly the same thing, word for word, he is judged as a criminal and treated like one.
Yeah.
And that was super powerful, and it really resonated with me.
I hear you, man. I mean, he had so many quotes, so many things that he said that was so heavy that, resonate today, and that, we should learn from him. And, and that wisdom that he gave. This is what I want to share with you. This was a poem I wrote about my father in the janitorial. This is a poem about the janitorial business. This is called Clarification. Okay. And I know that you and I can relate to this. Okay. How old is your father?
He just had a birthday. He is 53.
Okay, so he's younger than me. Okay, well, never mind that. but this is called Clarification. This is a poem. Um, Dad, I remember mopping floors with you on those jobs. You started your own janitorial company because you wanted something. You wanted to break out on your own, wanted to have something to show for it. I remember mopping those floors with you, floors of many surfaces, floors that people stepped on over and over. The floors would sparkle and it would dry, and the multitudes would step over it, leaving little evidence that you had left your imprint, your strokes of genius upon it. But tell me, Dad, when you told me not to bullshit, not to be shucking and jiving, not to do a half-assed job, what was it that you were really telling me? Did the floor really matter that much? Were you trying to tell me that I was going to get walked on and over in this life and I'd better be prepared? Were you telling me that there are times that the floor is yours and that you need to speak up when it is, just like Brother Preston Blakey? You always told me not to leave holidays, in other words, missed spots. But without the floor underneath you, you have no foundation. Everything grows from beneath, comes from the ground. Is that what you were trying to tell me? Brother Blakely, I just had to share. I just felt like I had to share that with you.
That was really powerful, man. That was really powerful, particularly the end. You made me think about our conversation earlier. I was talking about the power being at the base, coming from the ground up, grassroots.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
my dad, that he always strives, both my parents, my mom and my dad. My mom's like my best friend,
yeah.
but they always strive to be the best possible, because when we walk into that building, they don't see Preston Blakely with the master's degree. They they see Preston Blakely, the janitor. You know what I mean? So it that makes my day when I actually get to tell people I have a master's degree when I'm mopping that floor. But
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah,
talk.
my
Well, talk a little bit about you know, you mentioned your grandmother, you mentioned your mother, right?
Mhm.
That, you know, the folks that really had an impact on your life were the women in your life. You know, that's what it sounds like, that the women in your life really impacted you.
And my dad too. Yeah,
Yeah,
my dad, my brother, they all. I just think my family in general had a big impact on my life. I don't want to say just the women in my family. I think my family had a big impact on my life.
yeah.
I was telling you that my grandmother passed away last year. I mean, talk about a caring person. Talk about somebody that, you know, if somebody had an empty stomach, she was ready to feed them. She loved to cook, man. Best macaroni. It makes me sad I'll never get to see her again and eat that macaroni and cheese
Oh
again.
man,
Talk about the best ever,
the
man.
best macaroni and cheese.
Best ever. I don't care about anybody else's grandmother, anybody else's mama. My grandma had the best mac and cheese.
I believe
You
it. I
know,
believe.
it, it's funny though. I just had a conversation with somebody the other day and almost brought a tear to my eyes. She said, "Is Patricia Blakely your grandmother?" I said, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's my grandmother." She said, "Yeah, I remember her. She was the first black woman to drive a city bus, and she would come up the mountainside and pick us up. And if any of us misbehaved, that that was our neck." I was like, "Man, that's yeah." I was like, "Yeah, that's her. That's her." But but yeah, no. All my family had a huge impact on my life. My father, he has his work ethic, man, that you wouldn't believe. I mean, this is somebody that never stops working, never.
Yeah.
So when he wants to get something done, he gets it done. That's the same thing with my brother. My brother, he was just taking this test for this certification, and he just couldn't get over the hump for so long. And he studied day in and day out for it, and he just passed it Thursday, I believe.
Mhm.
I was super proud of him for that, and he kept working for that. And I said, my mom's like my best friend.
Yeah.
She's had adversity in her life. When I was young, she had a tumor, matter of fact, on her brain. Yeah, a tumor in her brain, so she had to get that surgically removed, and that's when I was in preschool. So she had
Wow.
to learn how to walk again, you know. So that's not something the average person goes through.
Yeah.
So I mean, just so many people in my life, man. And
Wow.
my sister Mia, she just got married. She has that same work ethic as my brother and my
Yeah.
dad, and I don't know, my whole family, man, is wonderful. I'm super lucky to be in this family.
You mentioned your dad being a real hard worker and having a hard work ethic. You know, you know, show us. You know, in the background, I noticed that you have things on the wall. Can
Oh,
you maybe
okay.
just get up and show those and what those are? You
Yeah,
know
yeah,
that
yeah.
you know the evidence of your work. You know.
Yeah, so all right, what we got here? So this is from Western. That's from when I graduated. And it says the Department of Political Science and Public Affairs hereby awards the 2018-2019 Outstanding NPA Student in Public Management Award to myself. That's May 3rd, 2019. Uh, Here we have my master's degree, my Master of Public Affairs. And
Yeah.
before we started recording, Tony and I had a conversation about this. He was like, "What is that? Is that a ribbon over your head?" But it's when you get your master's, you get your hood. So that's something I thought was really cool. So I'm trying to figure out how to better hang it up. But for right
Yeah.
now, it's hanging up beside my master's degree. Here's my undergraduate degree from UNC Greensboro. My bachelor of arts. So I was a double major actually in political science and African American and African diaspora studies. If you learn what a diaspora is, that's the free and forced migration of African people and their descendants across the world. So what that means is encompassing all Black people across the world. So we're studying there, every Black person. Uh, right here is my oath of office uh, to Fletcher. Right here is my certificate of election for Town Council District 2 from Henderson County. And then above me, above everything is that campaign sign, Preston Blakely for Fletcher Town Council, which is the coolest thing to be driving around town and be like, "Holy cow, that's me. That's
Yeah.
me." So,
Yeah.
so yeah, we got a lot back there, man. Hopefully, hopefully one day that whole wall will be full.
Well,
I hope.
we're gonna have to wrap up in a couple of minutes because I have the Zoom economy package. But I was watching. I want to leave kind of with one thing. I was watching a program from PEN America. That's an organization that yeah, organization of journalists and writers that advocate for freedom of expression. And one of the things that they did a few days ago, they featured some organizers, black organizers, young black organizers in the South that are doing work on voting and
Mhm.
fighting against disinformation. One of the sisters, one of the organizers from Mississippi, I think she, yeah, from Mississippi, young black sister was saying that one of the problems is that when you are trying to work with rural communities, that she said, for instance, one of the problems was that a lot of people don't have mailboxes; they have PO boxes, and they have to
Mhm.
go into town or they have to travel distances to get to the PO box. Well, when you don't have like city transportation and you have mobility issues, particularly if you're a senior, that's going to become an issue. So I just wanted to kind of leave with that and to just get your feelings just on this election and how we can uphold the integrity of the vote, because I know that that's been under attack. The attacking of the Voting Rights Act and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Uh, and a part of the Voting Rights Act was shot down in the 2000s, which led to all these voter suppression efforts. So, in North Carolina, we saw uh, gerrymandering, we saw voter ID laws, we saw all these mechanisms to make it harder to vote, and for most of these, it was making harder for people of color to vote, Black people to vote. Uh, I saw somebody say something the other day. It said, if your vote wasn't as powerful as you think it is, then they wouldn't be trying so hard to take it away. I'm
Yeah,
like, well, that, yeah, you're probably right there. Um, so and they've even admitted to these. This was the reason that they were trying to gerrymander and redistrict. And I think there's a judge that said something that really has stuck with voters. That he said they drew these districts with surgical precision to to marginalize people, to discount their vote. I know at one point in time, a Black person's vote, somebody smarter than me did this statistical analysis and said a Black person's vote at one point was less than one vote in North Carolina. Like, what? How can that be? You know what I mean? But the way they drew these boundaries made it that way. So I definitely
yeah,
encourage people to go vote for their chosen candidates. Uh, Definitely pay attention to these local elections, man.
yeah,
This year we have county county commissioner elections. We have school board elections. These are the people that make decisions about uh, how your child operates in schooling, and decisions that directly impact you. I mean, we look at the presidency, we look at Congress.
yeah,
Um, they make decisions that won't even impact us a lot of the times. But here locally, when we're talking about town council, when we're talking about county commission, we're talking about school board, those policymakers directly impacts you and your loved ones every single day. We're talking about trash being picked up. We're talking about schools,
we're
we're
talking about
talking
the
about
we're talking about
roads,
we're
we're talking
talking
about
about
sidewalks, we're talking about parks, libraries.
libraries and stuff. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I think that the takeaway is that
And if I could just say
yeah,
one, and in terms
yeah,
of the integrity of election, I'm not sure I'm honestly not sure how we're gonna keep that integrity when we have somebody that's trying to undermine it on a daily basis to discount the election. But continue what you were saying.
yeah. I
Somebody in a
mean,
very powerful position doing
well,
that.
like you were saying, in your own campaign, grassroots, door knocking, education. Likewise, what they're doing in Mississippi, what they're doing in Georgia, what they're doing in a lot of states in the South. a lot of young Black organizers are doing a lot of work. They're outreaching to people in rural communities everywhere, and that's really what's going to take, what it's going to take. Preston, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time. You know, we got this whole janitorial thing in common. I had no idea, man. So, you know,
oh man,
we're brothers of the broom, mop, dust rag, and toy vacuum, my brother.
there we go. Hey, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk with you, Tony.
Thank you.
I appreciate it a lot.
All right. Thank you. Again, this is Triple P. Thanks again to Preston Blakely. Shout out to everybody in Fletcher that voted for this brother. If he's going to run again, vote for him again, okay? So we can have him again on Triple P. But anyway, Preston.
Can we be quadruple P today? Can we have Preston in at the end?
Okay, it's a People's Poet podcast. Preston.
Plus
Preston. see, the thing is though, man, you got a good sounding name as it is, man. It's like, you know, Preston Blakely, you know, man of action. Preston Blakely, he's the guy who's gonna get it done. It sounds good, man. You know what I mean? It's like Preston Blakely, it sounds good.
I'm just trying to catch up to Tony Robles.
There you go. All right, brother. Thank you so much. And again, be sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a comment, okay? And next time we'll have somebody just as smart, just as charming, and just as informative and enlightening as Preston Blakely. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony.
All right.